Hello, good afternoon. I hope everyone's well. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, hope you've had a good weekend. And those of us joining from stateside, I hope you had a good 4th of July. Just do my usual checks. Yeah, I hope hope you've had a nice 4th of July, because I know it's a big day for yourselves out there. So hope that's all been a nice time for yourselves. Now, as always, we've got some carving to demonstrate. We're demonstrating one of my favourite woods, piece of teak, and we're going to do some carving here. Another example, really, for showing you some of the methods that we use for carving, because I'm going to start off. I'll go from sort of top to bottom. So we've got our bells, we've got the entwined hearts, Tudor rose, or like a variation on a Tudor rose, some daffodils, we've got the globe, the worlds, and some champagne type glasses. So that's the idea behind the design. As I said, we're carving in some teak, fantastic timber to work in, one of our favourites here at our family workshop. Apologies if you can hear the noise, not much we can do about that. We're a working workshop, so there's always something happening here, and Dad is in the back there working on more spoons for us, so that's what's happening. Now, always trying to sort of encourage everyone to have a go at carving and to share the techniques and methods that we use. Tommy's workshop. Hello, Tommy. Thank you for joining us. Glad you can join us. Hope all is well. And Aubrey as well. Brilliant. Yeah, you got some champagne glasses there. As you're joining us, are you all? What are you working on at the moment? Always great to hear what projects you're making, that sort of thing. If you're working on anything interesting, get it in the comments section. It's always great to hear what everybody else is doing. And as always, any questions on what we're doing or what anybody else is doing, let us know. I just paused for a moment because we had a driving instructor doing a bit of dangerous driving around our car park there. Interesting for a driving instructor. There we are. Anyway, back to this. And I'm starting on the globe. And the reason for that, that's probably the carving that's got the most sort of demands involved in it. And to give you an idea of the method that I use for doing this, I'm going to do like the outline. So I'm going to do all of my stop cuts to get the detail on there first. And I'm going to start then shaping it. So it's a technique then that I use for quite a lot of carving that I do, is to get the basic outline of a shape, a design, and then to start bringing out those different shapes as we're going along. So what I mean by that, with the globe, we're going to be rounding it all off. So the problem with this is all of this is going to be shaped. And if I just shape it, which I'd like to do first of all, I'm going to lose where I want all of my lines to be. I hope that makes sense. I hope I've explained that okay. So that is why I'm doing it in this sort of order. It is so I keep all of the lines for me to follow. Ideally, you know, there's other methods that you can use. You can shape it all, then do all of your marking out again. And, you know, that's another method you can do. But this is the way I'm going to choose to do it, is to use all of the lines that I got marked out, do all of the stop cuts, shape it, and then I'll have to redo the stop cuts again. But that's the method that we're going to use. We've just been joined by Thomas Woodcarver. He's been in the back there using the scroll saw.
I'd like to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It is a good afternoon, but I just had to put my pullover back on.
Yeah, it's gone a bit cold. Do you know my heating came on yesterday?
It's gone cold. Wow.
Oh, Tommy's workshop, he's here in Wales. He's up in Anglesey.
Oh, bro.
He's on his holidays in Anglesey. Well, thank you for joining us on your holidays. Much appreciated. I was just explaining the method that I'm doing. I don't think I explained it very well. What I'm going to do, see, I'm going to mark out all the stop cuts. I'm going to shape it. and then I'm going to mark out the stop cuts again, because as you shape it, you lose it.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to take me a little bit longer.
Yeah, you just have to go down slowly and to keep the...
So we keep the stop cuts, we got it to use as a guide. Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to lose that detail.
Yeah, I often have to do that.
Yeah, it's a method. I was saying you can shape it and mark out the detail then, and then go back, but it's, what's the word, horses for courses?
Yep.
Yeah. There we are. So we've got as far as California.
Well, I'm going to run around the block and try and warm up a bit.
So Thomas the Woodcarver's he's out for an afternoon jog by the sound of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's struggling. It's gone a bit cold here. This is summer in Wales. There we go. And the heating's come on, and Thomas the Woodcarver's complaining that he's cold. So typical Welsh summer, really. What did the South African cricket team say when they came to play cricket in the UK the one year? They said they come in the UK. You have summer 1. Oh no, you have winter 1 and winter 2. And we've come to play cricket in winter 2, so it's the less bad winter, was what they were referring to. Oh, busy this day, Deja, working from home still. Have a project in mind, but need to pick up some wood for it. Non-essential shops, only recently opened, really. Going to be 32 degrees C here today. Good afternoon, Thomas. Good afternoon. That's from Tommy's workshop, and that's Aubrey as well. Well, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to quite hit 32 degrees here in Wales. 12 to 13 degrees, more realistic. So you can see we're going around and shaping these, the different stop cuts for marking out. So we've done South America, or the one side. What's this? We've gone Chile and then up into towards Mexico. We're into North America, and yeah, it just gives us these guidelines. There's other methods, as I said, you can use, but none of them, there's no sort of right or wrong. Right, so back to South America, continuing to mark out these stop cuts. While I'm asking as well, while we're on the subject, any other methods that anybody else uses for marking out something like this? Always interested to know how other people do different things. And have you got a different technique that works better for yourselves? So this being teak, we have carved teak in different demonstrations. One of our favourite timbers for working in, it's softer for carving than a lot of the other timbers. So when it comes to the different hardwoods and stuff like that, you know, oak we find physically is a lot harder than something like teak for carving in. Mahoganies depends on the type. Fruit woods, generally speaking, are harder. It's one of Dad's favourites, this one, for working in. So we're just going to shape around here. Around that sort of, I think that's right, we're coming around towards Florida and the Caribbean, which I'm sure is all a bit warmer than here in Wales. And with a carving like this, basically we're trying to get our stop cuts and our detail as we're going along, but also we will be shaping it once we've done the stop cuts initially. We've had a busy few days here in the workshop. I think things are starting. You mentioned how Non-Essential has just opened in Ontario. Here in Wales, I mean, we've been open for, you know, in terms of Non-Essential for a month or two now at least. And what's sort of happening, weddings and things like that, they are starting. There you go, you can just see that grain coming through. They are starting to happen. So we are noticing with our online shop, that sort of thing, that orders are starting to come in. And we're starting to sell a few Lovespoons, which is nice, because it has been quiet at different times. Now some of these different bits, we're going to have to, I don't know, we're going to have to change a bit there with some of our detail, I think. That's what happens. I'm working out as I'm going along, because I've got different gouges, different shapes. But all of the stop cuts, you'd need a heck of a lot of gouges to be able to get every single stop cut as you want it. So as I'm going along, some of the bits of the map, we're just having to adapt just to change them slightly so it actually works for us. Yeah, we've had a busy morning this morning as well, so that we had an interesting morning. Here at the workshop, we've had a few people in and lots going on. It's a lot, yeah, just getting used to settling down, hopefully, into a bit more normality. Hopefully it's the same for yourselves. Getting used to a bit more of a familiar life. So, as we're coming round here, I think what I might have to do, this one's a useful little chisel because it's quite small. So I might have to just improvise a little bit on these bits at the top here. The idea with this really, it's an impression. You're not going to be able to get an exact copy unless I've got a lot more gouges. We're not going to get an exact copy of the globe, of the sort of world map. So that's what we're trying to do, is to create like an impression of things. So you just do your best to create that sort of, yeah, impression of the continents. The main thing is that if those shapes, we can sort of make out what those different shapes are. So at the moment, we've made Ireland bigger than the UK, and our UK, I'm struggling to see that Wales is on there, to be honest with you, but there we are, it is there. We know it's there, we're still here, but I'd rather get the basic outline as opposed to worrying about it too much. So once we're through all of these different bits, I'm just wondering, hi Aubrey, Tommy, Di and Thomas, good afternoon. There we are. I'm just checking that I haven't missed any comments there. Now the other thing as well that we managed to do, we've first time this year and first time with the new camera, managed to get into Tenby, our local seaside resorts, and we've been taking some photos, so that's nice for a change. These are things that over the last sort of 18 months we've missed out on doing, but nice to be able to get out. And I've actually changed the company in terms of the camera that I'm using, so an interesting thing to change from one system of taking photos to another, how different the colours and things like that are. But yeah, good to get out and start doing some stuff. So you can hear in the background Thomas the woodcarver there. He's just been working on the pillar drill. He's also been working on the scroll saw, and he's preparing those spoons that we've got coming up. We've also then, we're starting to get short on certain parts of our stock, so I've got a few other spoons on the bench, 1 and 2, and we're starting to need to start to make a few more Lovespoons to keep up with our internet stock. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you now what I've sort of got planned for this. We want to round it all off, and this is the problem, as I said. As you start to round it off, you lose the detail. So we only just starting to round it off, and already those little bits of detail, the stop cuts, we've lost. So we've got to go back over them, just like so, and bring them back out. So this is going to be a slow process, just like so. So again, we start to come round here, just to shape around the outside. Won't be as bad on this side here because we're working in the ocean, so we haven't got those stop cuts, so we won't be losing the stop cuts as we're going. Now I'm thinking, one issue with this one that I'm going to have, when I've done it before, I think that I've actually extended this so it sort of goes off the map. So I haven't actually had to do this stop cut here. So that is one little thing that I should have remembered from when I've done it before. It would make it easier if that stop cut isn't there. Now the most important one that I got to make sure is on the map as well is we got to keep Spain on there, because that'll be trouble with Yelly, my wife. If we haven't got Spain fully represented on here, she'll not be too happy with me. And then we got there just for Scandinavia, going into Russia. It's good, this. It's like a geography lesson. Aubrey, I remember going on a trip to West Wales with my family as a kid. The soft sand beaches, yeah, we got nice beaches. We stayed on a farm. Sadly, my hay fever was awful. Yeah, we get a lot of, my friend now, he suffers with the hay fever. You get a lot of the pollen, the tree pollens. And if it's high pollen, he really suffers with it. So yeah, you might find that. But yeah, we got nice beaches around. Places like Tenby, as we mentioned, and then further across the coast, you've got Barafundle Bay. There's Monkston is one of my favourites. Lidstep as well. So yeah, we got plenty of nice beaches. Years ago, you had Pendine was where they used to do the land speed records. So before they started doing it out in different areas. The desert, isn't it, around, is it Nevada and places like that? They used to use Pendine Sands because it was 7 miles long, and so they used to be able to get up a decent bit of speed going back about 100 years or so ago. They used to use it for that. And of course we always tell the story with the first flight from Saundersfoot with Bill Frost and his flying machine. That has largely been forgotten. So we've got Africa now on our map as well. So we've got all of our stop cuts, but this is the problem now we're going to have, is as we're starting to bring out, as we start to shape, yeah, those stop cuts are starting to disappear. So it's a slowly shaping as we go in, just to round off the globe itself. And we've got to go slowly because it is the teak carves well. It's soft though for carving, and we are losing those little stop cuts as we go in. So as you cut down, as you get that depth to the carving itself, we lose little bits of detail. I'm going to stop 2 seconds. I'm not going to go far, because what I'm going to do, there we are. Right, this was a love spoon that I carved previously, and it just shows you what I'm thinking of doing. I'm thinking of changing plan. So I've marked out all of those stop cuts, and I'm thinking that I need more depth and I need more shape. So I think that this is going to require quite a bit of, so I'm changing tack now. There we are. So that first part of demonstration, we demonstrated all of that, and I'm changing the way I do it. I still haven't managed to see the petrified forest and the sea. Tide was wrong with Wiseman's Bridge. Yeah, Amroth. That's where you want to get to for that. Where you have the sunken forest. You quite often when you get a storm round here, you'll see all of the you'll see the trees sort of showing through. So what I've done now, the whole start of that demonstration, good example for how, there we are, sometimes make an omelette, you've got to crack a few eggs. And so I've looked, this is what I've previously done when I've done the globe. There you go. So that was this year's love spoon. I demonstrated that before Christmas. And so I started and I tried to keep my stop cuts in as I'm doing the detail, and it's not working for me. I think in the US, we use the salt flats. Yeah, that sounds right. It's, yeah, it was a big thing down in Pendine, which is further along the coast from Wiseman's Bridge and Amroth, where you had the sunken forest. And they used to use that for the land speed records. Yeah, basically, to explain my change of method here, I want a good bit of shape on my globe, and by sort of sticking to the method that I was using, that was going to take forever. So sometimes you have to say, okay, that's not going to do it for me, that's not going to work. might come down to where, for this demonstration, where I don't end up putting the detail back on, and I might end up marking it back out, and then do all of the stop cuts. Because it's just going to take too long, because we want a nice bit of shape on the globe. So to do it the way I was doing it previously, it's just going to take me too long, so we forget that idea and just go for rounding everything off. So as we mentioned previously, teak, fantastic wood to work in. Nice, easy carving. It's almost sort of, I think it's very much relevant, the expression like a knife through butter, that sort of thing. And we've got the carver joining us. Good, it'll be good morning for yourself, good afternoon for ourselves here. So as in Welsh is bore da and prynawn dda. I've been watching, I've been seeing some of your different projects you're working on coming along nicely. And the carver has just joined, for any of you who don't know, there's an interesting group on Facebook, worth a little look at, called Free Scroll Saw Patterns, I think is the name of the group. And the carver's joined us on that one. It's a nice little group on there where people share their work, that sort of thing. So it's been good seeing the carver's work on that particular group. So a complete change of tack, but a good, useful demonstration from the point of view that, you know, we don't always, it can be easy to think when we're carving different stuff that it's everything, we do everything right the first time and it's all simple and straightforward. No, sometimes you experiment with your method and you change it sort of mid-project. I was explaining this morning, I had a gentleman asking me about a bespoke spoon and it had been carved by somebody else, and it was quite different in style, and it was something he was explaining about how, did you take your lathe on holiday with you, Tommy? Ah! So you're having a whole holiday and no woodworking. Sounds like a proper break. Now we've been looking at it now with all movements being allowed. We're hoping that there's a possibility we might be able to take Yelly across to see her family this August in Spain. And if we do, I'm hoping that I'll be able to find some Wi-Fi and still do a little live stream. Might not be on the carving, those live streams themselves, but I was thinking of doing a live stream maybe on the designing processes that we go through, and also to share with you what I actually do out when we're in somewhere like Spain, because we're sourcing wood and we're getting ideas and just developing things. So whilst we're away, we still continue to how can I explain? Think of different things to develop as a family workshop then. It's all part of it. But it's nice to get away as well. So you can see we're just shaping as we're going, rounding it all off, and we've lost a lot of our detail. But I want a nice sort of globe, rounded off shape. And that's the nice thing as well with Lovespoon, of course. With this one, we've got a whole story in it. So it's again a personal sort of story. Going back as well to the design I was referring to this morning, yeah, it was quite different in terms of the style that we want to do. And I was explaining that, you know, this is how we carve our spoons. To do somebody else's style, then it's quite an expensive process, because it means carving in a different way, it means preparing the spoon in a different way and adapting to methods that others use. But that's the nice thing about the Lovespoon and wood carving, is there's always different styles and it can cater for all sorts of different approaches and methods and styles and all sorts of things. Idle hands, no, exactly. Spot on from the carver. You missed at the start. I was wishing you, I hope you had a, it's the 4th of July, isn't it, yesterday? So a big day for yourselves out in the US. So is it a happy 4th of July that we wish you? Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, happy 4th of July for yesterday. So I'm just going to go on now. Basically what I'm doing with everything is we're changing the approach that we've taken initially on this spoon, and we're going to try and get the depth that we're looking for on all of the design. So that's what we're focusing our attention more on now, is to get the depth in the design that we're doing. With the champagne glasses then, this one is the back glass, so this has to push behind. So we've always got to remember then, if I started off working on this one and I end up pushing that too deep, this one has to go even further back. So that's why I start off shaping, get the depth that we want for the top glass. Get the depth you want for the bottom glass and then come back up. Very much so. It was a good one. Hence me being a little bit late today. Good. Glad to hear it. Yeah, it's an important day, of course. Here in Wales, all of our important days are fairly early in the year. So we have St. Dwynwen's, of course. Important day for ourselves as Lovespoon carvers. And then we have St. David's Day in 1st of March. Start of March. 1st of March, yeah. That's it. It was a long weekend in Canada as well. 1st of June. Canada. Oh, apologies, Aubrey. A happy Canada Day as well. Oh, I missed that one. I apologise for that one there. I rode a bicycle tonight. Wow, that sounds amazing. Was lucky to find a hotel room tonight. Brilliant. Been fishing most of the morning. Could do with something on a night to watch on the telly. I hope the fishing went well. You'll have Welsh television. You've probably got S4C up there, Tommy, have you? There we are. S4C. Also, it's a big day in the US yesterday and a big day in Canada as well. So lots of celebrations. So we're just working now on shaping that one. But as I said, I don't want to push that top champagne glass back too far, because it will cause us problems carving the back champagne glass. So there's a little bit more shaping on the globe. I'm interested to know as well from the carver. I probably had as you said, a busy day, but this week, have you got any plans, any more projects? For any of you who haven't seen, you'll have to get on the carver's Instagram and see the different projects that they're working on. Some fantastic stuff. Always good to keep up to date with what everybody else is doing. Even having a go at our 3 Wise Men silhouetted candle design, which has come out really nicely. Slightly different style to ourselves in the way we do that design, but it's certainly come out well. So again, just to go over, same sort of as usual, the different processes. So we're using our stop cuts and we're trying as much as we can to carve in the direction of the grain. And then with the teak, the nice thing when you're working in teak, it will sand and finish really nicely. So that's always a nice aspect for it. One thing as well worth noting, when we're doing that champagne glass, you've got to remember that you've got to create that effect of that going behind the top champagne glass. So that is why it's always that idea of creating that 3-dimensional image, even though you're working in 2 dimensions. And so yeah, we're creating that effect. These 2 bits have got to line up correctly. They've got to sort of marry up to one another. Otherwise it'll look a little bit strange. It won't work as a champagne glass. My goal is to cut blanks between now and when we hit the road on Thursday, and that's when I can, yeah, fantastic. So if you're on vacation like that, absolutely, get all of those blanks ready. That's one of the good things about working with the scroll saw. You can prepare all those blanks, and then you've got them there, and you can carve them while you're away, at your leisure. So it just, you can see hopefully as well, you know, we're always sharing methods, ideas. You can see why we start off with that globe, because the champagne glass is a little bit more straightforward in terms of carving and sorting out. As the globe, we've had to change as we're going along. We've changed our method. I'm thinking I needed to ask a few questions before tackling the wise men. Yeah, no problem. We'll have to, we'll have to sort something out. And if you're doing any others, I mean, the job you did on it was lovely, and it was a slightly different style to our own. But I think that's always good to have your own style, your own methods that you did it. But yeah, fantastic finished job. But any questions, we'll have to sort something out, and yeah, we'll have a little chat about it. Right, so those first two symbols, I think we're by and large there in terms of the depth on the globe that we want. What I'm going to do from here is to sand it nice and smooth, and we pulled that back a bit too far. So we sand it nice and smooth, and the same with the champagne glasses. So hopefully when we're doing, you know, a job like this one, nothing too sort of complicated, but it's a good way to see how different things happen in your carving process. Now I'm trying to sand that, and again I'm going to do something to make my life a bit easier. If I shape that, so if I just come around here and just widen this and drop it down a little bit, it's going to make my life easier for the sanding. I'm having one of those days where every method that I use, I decide that I'd be better off using a different method. Possibly because I've had a busy morning, I haven't been doing too much, but I haven't been doing too much carving this morning. And so my brain is, it's taken a while to get into gear. So every method that I've used, I've decided is the wrong method. But there we are. That's the nice thing with working in wood. You can adapt, you can change, you can evolve it as you're going along. So all it is, if I got a little bit more width there, it just makes life a little bit easier for the carving. Now, Thomas the Woodcarver's just opened the door. I'm going to ask him for a quick favour. Are you there, Did? Could you, no, it's not, no, but, could you do us some sandpaper? Grab us a little bit of the soft sandpaper there. What it is, if you look, see, I'm just demonstrating this, and I've changed completely what I'm doing, because the globe, I've ended up now where I've taken out all of the stop cuts and pushed it down, because it was going to take forever to carve.
Okay. Yeah, well, what we can do is put another globe on top.
We'll remark it. Or what I've done, see, I've got this one, so we'll. Yeah. What I may do is to.
I draw it out then.
We will draw it out again.
Yeah.
And stick it on and go from there. So again, sharing the methods that we're using. See, basically, because this is our job, this is what we do. I know some of yourselves the same. And so if we don't do something about it, oh, Alfredo, saludos. Is buenas tardes or buenos días? Yo no sé. Siempre buenas decisiones, maestro. Muchas gracias.
What's that?
There we are. So, there we are. That's a bit of. We still got the carver's sandpaper that we used. There you go. So that's a bit of sandpaper that we had from the carver.
That's a bit of other stuff as well.
Brilliant. So all I've done is basically we've dropped we've dropped the depth down on everything, but basically, yeah, because we're doing this as our day job, what are we working out? Initially, I was thinking it would save me the complexity of the carving if I kept all the stop cuts in. But the problem was it was going to take too long to shape everything.
I'll reproduce the picture.
If you print out, yeah, so we'll share with you now what we're going to do in terms of getting that design back on. And what I'm going to actually do, there's a few stop cuts that are left on it. And so I'm going to take out all the stop cuts now. So you can see in the middle here, where I haven't shaped it, there's still a few stop cuts. If I sort of, stop for a moment and I'll explain the exact method and exactly what the thought process is. When I started carving this little one here, I thought that the quickest way to do it would be mark out the stop cuts. So we keep all of the stop cuts in. And as we get deeper into the carving, we've still got those stop cuts to follow. Problem with that is that I want quite a nice rounded shape on our globe. So to keep the stop cuts, they're going to have to go so deep into the wood, it's not been practical. So the mindset that I'm using, I'm constantly looking what is the most economical route to the final product that I'm looking to produce. And so that is the mindset. How do I get to that end result in the most efficient possible way? And my initial idea, I've now abandoned that and thought, right, get the depth sorted first. Concentrate on the depth, and then afterwards then put that detail back in. And these are just the decisions then that we're making. Yes, I've lost a little bit of time because I marked out those stop cuts initially, but in the long run, I'm going to save time by getting this depth that I want and then putting the stop cuts in afterwards, because what it's going to mean, if I'd have done this from the outset, it means I'd have only done the stop cuts on one occasion. Hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comment section if you want any more explanation on that one. The good thing, we're working in teak, so it won't take me too long to get that shape done. And to give you an idea on the complete method, what we're going to do now, see, Dad is going to go and photocopy the design that we had. We'll bring it back in and we'll probably use some carbon paper, draw all of the lines back onto the wood, all the stop cuts, and then carve it out. And that would have been the best methods from the outset. But I think it's a good indicator with wood carving. There's a bit of trial and error. I'll tell you now that I like the way the teak is telling you that you've achieved this vertical shape. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's we're getting there. We're getting there. I mean, teak. Oh, if anyone hasn't carved it, it's great stuff. I like oak. I like doing a lot of the carving. You'll notice most of the carving I do is in oak. But teak, there is something special about it. A special wood and a beautiful finish that you get on it. So you can see we're just getting that depth there. So by dropping these bits around in the design as well, that should make life a little bit easier. We'll need some carbon paper as well, I reckon, don't you? So Dad has photocopied that one for me now, see?
I think that probably will be alright. It's not best carbon paper.
Oh, there's some good carbon paper in in by the designs and stuff.
Do you want to cut the inside or?
I would, yeah, just cut the globe. Just cut the globe. Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. But yeah, it just, another, in terms of this demonstration, hopefully that gives you an idea. If you don't think the method that you've chosen initially is the right way to go, change. Do what you think is right. Hopefully in the long run it'll save you. Okay, so what Dad has done, see, he's cut that out now for me. So what we'll do, we'll remark that like so. We get all of those markings back in the design and then carve all of those stop cuts, and that'll finish the job. Let's have a little look. Main thing, you're enjoying the process. It's being able to have a bit of fun with what you're doing. I mean, you know, what a fantastic way to spend your Monday afternoon carving a beautiful piece of teak. And so that's the main thing for ourselves, is that, yeah, it may not have gone in the way that I initially anticipated, but it makes it realistic. You know, you get an idea. Mistakes happen, methods that you're using may not be the best one for the job. Adapt, alter, change it, learn as you're going along. The daft thing is, I think when I did our spoon for the year, I think there's a live stream of it, I think I did exactly the same thing. It's funny, isn't it, where you have a method in mind, and as you start carving you realise it's not the best method to use.
Another little interesting one here, Dave.
Yeah. I tell you what, if you come round, because this microphone it may be picking you up fine, but it's on this unidirectional thing, and it's
well, you know, during your apprenticeship, you'd never use a pen to mark something.
Yeah, but with carbon paper, isn't it?
This occasion, there's the carbon paper, and we're going to use a pen because it's got a harder point.
Because the point is harder, it tends to mark out better, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Right, so we happy with the shape there on our globe? What do you reckon, Dick?
You could keep on forever rounding it and rounding it. So
What do you think?
At the end of the day, it's an impression of what you're looking for, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So, what we do, I reckon, a little bit of, well, the first thing, we don't want to do it upside down. That wouldn't be a very good start, would it? Got a little bit of sellotape.
Sellotape. Look, you know, what would you do?
Oh, I tell you what, I'm really putting you under pressure here today, making you. How did your run go as well?
My run
Sounded like you were working in the back of the machines, but
yeah, I was.
Right. So, what we're going to do again, sharing different methods we use. That's not the best sticking now, but it'll do, I reckon.
Got to do for the bottom. Oh no, you've got to put this.
I got to put the carbon paper underneath. So hopefully now that tape is not going to hold brilliantly, but hopefully, because this could be embarrassing, I'm going to try and mark it out. So we're just going to mark everything back out, and hopefully.
Are you pressing hard?
I am trying to.
Okay.
Yeah, because of the shape, we've got to make sure. I think I just tore the carbon paper. That's it. So we're going to try and remark all of the different shapes on the globe. So you'll notice as well, sometimes it doesn't come through as we want, where the sellotape is. Let's have a little look. We'll have to mark out on another occasion. We'll have to find somewhere on the globe where there's not a lot of land. Make it easier for ourselves. Let's have a look. So all we're doing, see, is hopefully the carbon paper will remark out those lines. And the main thing, as Dad was saying, it's an impression. That's what you're looking to get. An impression of, because there's going to be aspects that you look at. For instance, probably the first thing that doesn't come out is Wales. Let's have a little look. Yeah, here we are. Oh, I missed the bottom of Africa. Where do you reckon that comes down? About there? I think that's about right, do you?
A little bit more curvy, perhaps.
You think?
Maybe for the bottom. It's not
right.
bad.
It's there or thereabouts.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's there or thereabouts. You may not be able to see that too well on the camera. Have we missed anything there? I would say I would say yes to the carbon paper because glue is the flat circle to the sphere. Yeah, you could glue it back on. The only problem is if we glued it back on, we'd probably have to then sand it.
Yeah.
But you could do that, yeah. It's another method.
It isn't a big deal, really.
Just don't forget space. Spot on. This might be easier with a finer point ballpoint. Yeah, more precious. Spot on. Yeah. So what we're sort of trying to do now is to give a rough sort of outline of the globe. I'm just going to move my carving block across. Something that we don't always explain to people. Why change the shape of North America? I hope not. I've kind of isn't there a little bit that sort of points out on sort of Florida? I've taken away a few countries in the Caribbean as well. As we said, it's an impression. And that's what we're going to do now, is to try and get all of these lines back in. We'll probably end up as well going back over this again, because when we shellac the Lovespoon, the shellac will probably fill the lines in a bit, won't they? So I was getting the feeling you were going to say something then.
Well, I can because I didn't design this.
Yeah.
I can say that, yeah, you haven't done bad on that, fair play, that's a nice design. I like the daffodils with the Tudor rose.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do like that.
Well, give you an idea as well to share with you. This central portion, we're probably going to do a standard design using that central portion. That's probably going to be it's probably going to be on our online shop at some stage, isn't it, that design? So you saw it here first.
And as well, it's the fact that you've combined the daffodil there with the English rose.
It's togetherness, isn't it?
It's the Tudor rose, which is a Pembrokeshire emblem as well.
That's right. So you've got England, Pembrokeshire, Wales, all depicted together.
But for anybody outside of England and Wales, there's it's a strange sort of how can I explain? It's not just a strange country. It's
strange relationship sometimes.
Yeah, it's like two brothers then.
Yeah.
You know.
Good comparison.
And
a bit of squabbling, but all in all, a similar identity and a similar culture and a similar.
Yeah, and it's a nice way to bring the two brothers together.
Yeah.
And sort of.
Is this a long way of saying that you're supporting England to win the Euros?
Well, yeah, there's a.
Because for me, that's the only time that sort of I even think in terms of these sort of rivalries is in the sports arena.
Which is unfortunate, really, because you're seeing. They show. Patriotism is one thing, but I mean they're showing now. The European Cup is being played, and it's a sporting occasion. But that's what it is. It's a sporting occasion. You'd think that sort of
it was more important.
Yeah, you'd think it
was. We've got young duds with us as well. Thank you for joining us.
It's sort of.
It's only a game, boys.
It is. It's a game, and whenever I took part in sport, one of the most important thing during a game was, in fact, after the game, you shook one another's hand. And that's what it was all about. But I'm afraid today, that seems to be the last thing anybody does. It just, I know I'm sounding off as I usually do, but it just seems so.
Next week's project, we're making Thomas the Woodcarver a soapbox.
Yeah, good idea. You know, it's sort of.
We'll have to have a look for some designs.
It's all very well to cheer your team on. That's great, but there's almost an aggressive kind of. Well, you've got it. You've got
partisan, isn't it?
In certain parts of Europe, you've got they're chanting racist comments. You know, which
bit ridiculous. So, I'm just looking as well. I've managed to turn North America. It almost looks a bit eaglish. You see, I got a head there, and I got a wing there, and a wing there.
That was obviously deliberative. Yes, I know. No, it's just that when you see that the daffodil and the rose like that together on a love spoon,
you know, positive message.
That means promoting and a positive message about, you know, a nice way to bring countries together then and to show their positive parts.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, what is the team that's involved now in this European? The one where the chap...
Denmark.
Denmark, you know.
How are we looking there?
If anybody listening didn't see the situation with the Danish player who suffered a heart attack.
Oh, I know, there are a few interesting ones on here. I play Australian football. Blimmin' heck, that's a sport and a half. And even took part in international matches, agreed on the importance of post-game handshake and usually beers between both teams. Yeah, that's a proper game, that is. Aussie rules.
Yeah.
Very true, Thomas. It's about sportsmanship against it. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's good. You know, everybody was so shocked when that Danish player collapsed. And it sort of brought everybody to reality of life, and you know, it's sort of and you know, and I just like the fact that the reason I'm saying this is because, you know, in certain parts there's quite a sort of a friendly rivalry is great, but sometimes
goes a bit far.
With the daffodil and the English rose, it isn't a friendly rivalry, you know, and other.
Interestingly, actually, with what you're talking about, going slightly off the subject, something happened on that front in the rugby with England and Wales. And again, I sent a photo to of the rose and the daffodil together to both the WRU and the English rugby, and on Twitter, and they both ignored it. Which is, yeah, you just reminded me of that. I can't remember what happened. There was something going on. Something where what you're talking about, where the rivalry went a bit far. You just reminded me of it. Yeah.
Right.
There we are. So I think, what do you think? We've got a basic outline. I think I may put a few little more dots and sort of lines because there's a few more sort of countries in the Caribbean.
You know, the message is there. The spoon is explaining that's what the person asked for. It's a few little. It's a globe or an impression.
I've managed to put a face on it now.
It's an impression of a globe, and that's.
I keep on seeing things. I keep on putting markings in there, and then seeing things that I've gone and put on it. I always think it's interesting when you see the different maps, how massive Africa is.
Yeah.
What a huge place. Absolutely. Because especially for us ourselves here, because like for me, like whenever I do, you know, because we're hoping now that we will be able to get across to Spain. But whenever I travel in Spain, it never ceases to amaze me how massive and vast Spain is in comparison to the UK. The UK is pretty tiny, isn't it?
Well,
like North America.
It's the same as we go to Scotland, eh?
Yeah.
You know, just to get around the lock takes you a day.
But it's
whereas our sort of
our transport is
Our reservoir, you know, you can do it in an hour or so.
you can walk around it in a day, less than a day. I'm gonna try and get a bit better this time for. Yeah, I'm going for like a bit of a triangular sort of shape for the UK. It does mean that Wales is a little bit sort of cut off it, but it is there. Now we need something. I'm gonna have to reduce down the size a little bit when it comes to Ireland, because the first time we did it, there we are. I'll make Southern Ireland a bit bigger. How's that for Ireland? Is that about right? Are you happy with that, or you're not? It's not easy. It's not an easy one to get all of the different bits. It's trying to get, you know, proportions and things. It's an impression, isn't it? You were the first one to do like a globe, wasn't it? You did it back on the Millennium, the world as a footstool.
Yeah.
That was the first time we did the globe, but it's not a. It's an interesting one to get on into your carving if you haven't done one before. There we are. Oh yeah, that's nice, huh? There we go. That's Thomas Woodcarver's version. Hey, look at that! I got more of the. I managed to get more of the UK. Look, you got a smaller Africa than me. I got a bigger Africa on there. So we're just going to finish off with this one, and then we go on to the other bits of the design. It's a tricky little carving, really, isn't it?
Yep.
It's not a straightforward one. Now we've got Italy to. This has been the latest thing as well. My son, he's into all of the flags and the national anthems. I'll ask Dad. Do you know your grandson's favourite national anthem at the moment?
Well, it was the Russian one.
It's the Russian one.
Yeah.
So we got our 6-year-old Welsh boy, and he's walking around school singing the Russian national anthem. And he likes the Spanish one as well. So he's learning all about the flags and things. So that's why my globe fits in with everything that's happening at the moment in our household. Have I missed anything? Competition in the shop, good healthy fun. Yeah. I don't know. We have much competition here, really, do we?
Wow. What do I say?
I think we all have a role and a job to do. So what we're going to do now, this is more, those bottom parts of the design are more sort of...
That's the answer I was looking for. Appreciating the differences, that's what it is.
There we are. And what we're going to do, these bits then, a little bit more sort of standard to what we're used to doing. One thing as well, this is like a little bit of a stylized daffodil, because we're creating almost like a little bit of a heart shape.
Dances with Arms. Wales is just over 20 million rugby pitches in area.
That's it. And that's the system we use for measurements. We measure in rugby pitches. There we are. So you can see we're just starting to drop down the depth now of the, what do you call it, the stem, isn't it, on the daffodil. What I was looking for in this design, I thought there was naturally a nice little heart shape.
Yeah, it's nice. I like it. Yeah.
So that was,
yeah.
You know, we do different versions of the daffodil. Interesting thing, actually, you'll see with Lovespoon carvers, there are a few different styles of daffodils that get used, and this is the one we've always used. Our style of daffodil is it's different to anybody else's, really. I've never known. There's
It very often fits the chisels, doesn't it?
That's right. It's what fits our tools.
Dances with Andrew. Sorry, 2 million, not 20.
But it's one of those things. You mentioned rugby. Rugby in Wales is it's a sport that has massively declined.
Well, it's, shall we say it's changing?
Yeah, it's changing. Yeah,
People are finding like
other things.
Surfing now in Wales is
quite a big thing. Yeah,
quite popular, and different kinds of
paddle boarding. That's the latest one.
That sort of thing is becoming more popular here.
Kite surfing.
Yeah,
that's another one. Yeah, and but the rugby. I mean, the rugby. I don't think there's barely been a game played in Wales over the last 18 months, isn't there? Because of all the COVID
very little
rules.
Yeah.
So it's been a struggle for the rugby clubs.
So certainly sport is
excuse me,
is changing.
Yeah.
What's the other thing they do? Paddle boarding. Surfing.
No, I'm not sure. You may notice as well, as we get beyond those sort of initial carvings, we're sort of now getting into more familiar territory. And when you're on more familiar ground, when you're with more familiar carvings, you tend to just speed up a little bit because you're just a bit more familiar with what you're doing, basically. Was Googling why Wales is using their... No, rugby pitches. We measure everything, see? We always bring it back to rugby. Measuring everything in Wales in the size of a rugby pitch. So we just work in there, just across the grain a little bit.
Is it teak, is it?
It is.
Yeah.
Nice bit of wood. And when we go on to this one, now this is, we've done the Tudor rose lots of times, but this is a slightly different style of Tudor rose. So we're gonna basically go back to the original method that I used with the globe that I abandoned, where we're going to do stop cuts down into the wood. You've got to be thinking in front as well, where these points, I won't push them back too far, because we've got to think about whatever we do on that one, you've got to match it up on the other four points. So we're just going to match it up with the other ones. And then inside this particular Tudor rose, it's a little sort of, what would we call that one? Is it a little daisy, really?
Yeah. I remember doing this one, drawing this one out. Do you remember?
I do indeed, yes.
And
because this wasn't the original flower.
When you're working for different people,
yeah,
we'll say some people have an impression of what, they've got a picture in their mind of what they want.
Yeah. Well, the difficulty we had with this one is they had an idea of the rose, and we were thinking of a rose, and they were thinking of a Tudor rose, but they were thinking of an adapted Tudor rose.
Yeah.
So this one took quite a little bit of working out because, being honest about it, I couldn't quite understand what they were looking for, because they were talking about a rose, and they were talking about a Tudor rose, and they were talking about, it wasn't straightforward.
And if I can just draw something there before, if I can point out what I had the idea, I would have been coming down there again. You understand?
Yeah.
And all the way round.
Yeah.
That would have been more traditional.
Yeah.
But so, I think we'd already spent about 2 hours
on the flower. Yeah.
With the customer present.
That's right.
So
so you're trying to get a feel for what's happening. Hello, Boyo.
Hello.
What's your favourite national anthem, Nico?
The Russian.
There we go, see?
Come by here.
From the horse's mouth.
Come by here. There he is, Nico. So what's your favourite anthem?
Russian.
The Russian.
Russian. There we are.
Yeah.
Did you have a good day in school today?
He hasn't been in school today.
Oh, he hasn't been to school?
He's had his school trip. He's had his school trip and he's been down the beach.
So where did you go?
The beach.
So you can see we're just bringing up the detail.
Bridge, and we crossed the Severn Bridge.
You crossed the
Severn Bridge.
The
There we are.
Clearby Bridge, that's what it was.
There we are. There we are. There we go. So that's the boys back home from school, and he's had his school trip. And he thinks he's crossed the Severn Bridge, which would mean he'd be in England, but he didn't. He just went down the road. So you can see,
do you have a nice trip?
we're building up those petals. So just getting that depth. What I'm conscious of as well, I started using the mallet and I felt that I could sort of feel the petals just shifting slightly. So I don't want, ideally, I don't want to be having to basically redo those if I pop a petal. So ideally I want to avoid popping a petal. So we're just going to carve that by hand as opposed to using the mallet as well. Yeah, back to this design. Siren head. These are the different things you're interested in, and they need go. So yeah, what we're going to do is to, as Dad mentioned, with this design, it's a good example for how we work with people and try to understand then the design that they're looking for. Sometimes we don't get it right initially, and it takes a little bit of time to figure out, because it's not quite a rose, not quite a Tudor rose either. So we were trying to work out the exact type of rose we want.
Designing missiles. This is one of them.
Now that one, it's not a missile. There we are. Nico's showing you this one. He thinks that's a missile. What that's going to be the background of a sign. There we are. So that's going to be a sign.
Why does it look more like a missile?
Because it's in the shape and size, that one, of a paddleboard. So you can see we're just getting that little flower in the middle. Just like so. And we're going to finish off the points. And then the idea is we'll get a little bit of depth on these particular petals as well. I'm just checking as well. That is connected to this, so we're going to have to drop that down a little bit as well. There we are. So the same again, stock cuts down into the woods, just like so. We were actually this morning, we were going through some of the methods with somebody, some of the basics. And for instance, we were doing the basics on how to do a bowl. So we were demonstrating how we draw a line across the centre, carve to that centre line, and then draw a line around the outsides, and then bring out, work your way back to that outside line. So again, another stock cut, and then probably what I'm going to do, yeah, we're going to cut away the different bits of paper so we'll be able to see more clearly then where we've got to go with the design. So I'm just noticing there's bits, little bits just to come out of here. It's another demonstration of how the sort of process comes together for different symbols, different carvings. Sounds like almost enough to satisfy a Welsh person. Yeah, Nico's convinced that he went across the Severn Bridge, but he's been down to a beach that we call Freshwater East, which is about 20 minutes down the road. But he thinks he's been across the Severn Bridge, but it was it's what we call the Cleddau Bridge. A little bit of a difference, but it sounds like he's had a good day, and that's the main thing. He's actually come back home. He's obviously put his own shorts on because he had his shorts on backwards. So again, little bits of detail, getting the depth on the petals of the daffodil. And then for any of you who are looking to use similar methods, you know, for marking out, it's not ideal with the paper because you're cutting through that paper, so it does take the edge off your gouges a little bit. But what you can do is use the belt sander afterwards and sand off all of the paper. Because we've got a good sharpening system here with the Tormek and it doesn't take off a lot of the gouges, that's our preferred choice when it comes to sharpening, and preferred choice when it comes to marking, because we don't take off too much metal when we resharpen. And there we are, so we've got that. We basically, when we're doing daffodils, we look to get like almost like about a 45-degree angle on the trumpet. And it's all the time you're trying to create like a simple impression of whatever the symbol is, and a simple impression of what you're doing. I've just seen Dances with Aardvarks there. Yeah, it's always interesting. Nico, when he comes in, he's always got a few pearls of wisdom. His latest thing, flags, national anthems, anything when it comes to the military, and a character called Siren Head, which is all new to me. Oh, Thomas Woodcarver's coming in with the drinks. She's just bringing me in a tea. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And we're just building it up. It's one of these carvings that there's actually a lot of elements to it. So I'm going to take these bits of paper off. So we're working on the 2 flowers, and once we've got the 2 flowers done, we're in again familiar territory with the hearts and the bells at the top. Going back to what you were saying as well, because Thomas Woodcarver's back here. Yeah, so it sometimes when it comes to designing, it can be difficult, can't it, to fully understand what somebody's actually looking for. It's like this morning, we were sort of sent an email with a Lovespoon in it, and it was a Lovespoon that was all solid. There was no light in it at all, and so that can be a bit difficult then, because that's not our style of carving, is it?
No, one man's meat is another man's poison.
That's right. So just working on those petals, dropping the depth down, just like so. We're working slightly across the grain, but always with the teak you'll get away with it, won't you?
Yeah.
It's such an easy carving piece of wood.
The chisels will need sharpening now as well.
Yeah,
Teak does tend to
take the edge off.
Take the edge off them.
And I mean, they were due.
I know.
They're due for a bit of attention. With a carving like this as well, though, what you'll find is that you're working on different elements. So, for instance, we're working on this central portion, and as you're going along, is a point where it all it comes together almost.
Well, I used to have 3 stages of carving. The one where you get all excited and you're all new and you want to start a project, and you draw it all out and you put it on the wood and you start it. Oh,
full of enthusiasm.
And then you get in the middle section of your carving, which you're in now. You are in that middle section now where you just have to stick at it, chipping away, keep chipping away, and eventually then you get to you get near the end, and finally then you can say, right, it's ready now for shellacking. So I always think that there are 3 stages to a Lovespoon.
Any carving.
A carving, yeah.
And
it's that middle stage which I find difficult. I think a lot of people find, speaking to some people, they sort of find similar situations where it's easy to start a job, not so easy to get through it and then finish it. That's where the perseverance comes.
Well, on that side, we've got Novas. Hello, sir. Hello to you too. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully this will be useful. And what you're talking about, that's an interesting thing when it comes to sort of wood carving and different jobs like that, where I got some slightly different versions, because I think the actual different processes that I get in my head, the thing I probably get the most stressed about is the designing. Right. That's probably where my like, for instance, I told you now, like when I finished with the demonstration here, I want to start looking at the design for the gentleman who contacted us yesterday and today, And the reason I want to look at that one is because I haven't quite got it clear in my head how that carving is even going to be possible and take shape. So I want to get on with that one as soon as I can, so I can actually relax and think, right, I can see the direction that we'll go in. And then from there, when it comes to the process, you mentioned those 3 stages.
There's a good comment there from the carver.
Well said, Thomas. There's always a point with my carvings where I wonder if it's time to use the carving to start a fire. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I well, again, there is a lot of psychology involved. So for instance, with this carving, I'm actually more, and famous last words, because something can go wrong at any stage, but I'm in some ways a little bit more relaxed doing the carving now than when I was dealing with this globe.
Right.
Because that was in my head, what is the best method to do it? How are we going to do it? How are we going to get that right? Now, you're never relaxed because anything can go wrong at any stage, but it's interesting, isn't it, the different psychologies of different parts of the carving process.
I do remember somebody in a carving class starting to carve an Alsatian, and they ended up with a sausage dog.
Oh dear.
What do you call them? Those
Chihuahua.
Chihuahua, that's right, yeah.
Oh dear. So what stage of carving's that?
Well, the legs started out quite long and they ended up rather
Stumpy,
like, you know, a lot shorter than what they were intended.
Now this as well, this is a delicate, this isn't straightforward, this carving round here, because it doesn't really, the shape of these outside petals to carve sort of into the centre, they don't quite, you know, it's a different shape. We've got these small fine petals, but we've got to get a bit of depth on these outer petals. So this is not straightforward.
Again, when I served my apprenticeship, I still remember what, the carpenter that I was training under, he used to say, anyone can do the easy jobs.
Yeah, that's right.
But not the case for the more difficult job. And it's true, you just have to stick at it and keep trying.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a quick check on there. So all I'm looking to do now, we're getting rid of as much of the paper on that design.
The carver, famous last words. Hey guys, check this out. Hold my beer.
Absolutely. It is. One of those situations where you say something like that and then the next thing you'll hear a click and that's that. End of carving. We got problems. But yeah, I find that when I get into a carving, I'll judge it. So for instance, I got some other carvings on the bench and they got a dragon on them and a daffodil and a rose. Because they're carvings that you're doing regularly, you don't really think about them so much. As with this one, I was very, very conscious of the globe, how we're going to do it, how to get that right. And because it's something you're not doing regularly, yes, I've done it before, but you forget how to do things. And then you're looking at your method for how you're going to do it. And you're going from there. Let's have a little look. Yeah, now we're just working on the trumpets. Just like so. And I think what we do, we will finish off these flowers. And I will probably leave it there for this week.
Where's the spoon, Dave?
Which one are you thinking of?
You want it? Have a look in here, I'll pass this in here.
Okie doke. So just adding little bits of detail to the daffodil. Adding little bits of detail to the petals at the back. Just like so. And then we're going to turn it around the vise because I just want to take that down a little bit. Might have to add more depth to this whole flower, but
I think, I know you probably can't show the whole spoon.
Yeah.
But this is a good example. how you can show part of it.
It's a good example for how careful we sort of have to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've ended up doing 2 spoons, and it is for the most minor.
Which we'll show everybody
Of
now.
reasons.
We'll show everybody just to see how, yeah, and in carpentry, joinery, building, brickwork, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You know, at the end of the day, the customer's always right.
Yeah.
That's very
Well,
very controversial.
We're always trying to, as best we can, we're always trying to anticipate things, aren't we?
Yeah.
Saves you hassle in the
You
long
know
run.
what it's like, you know, somebody's got this impression of the way they want the kitchen finished, the way they want the bathroom finished, whatever you're doing, and it's the same with the Lovespoon. They've got an impression of what they want. You show the drawing, and then you come to this particular stage that I'm going to show everybody in a couple of minutes.
No problem.
And what do? You, in our case, we started again.
We did. And it'd be interesting to see what everyone thinks. Because there was no issue with the carving. There was no issue with the design or anything we'd done. But there was something else. And we were not 100% that they'd be happy with it. So we decided, start again. And then we end up with 2 spoons. We'll explain. We did something to mean that nothing was wasted. Right. So, I think...
Do you want the shellac to put that on there so it'll highlight it?
I think there's a fair bit of work left in this, so we leave it for...
I think you could shellac that though, Dick. If you just shellac the Tudor
Okay.
rose, right?
Okay.
I'll leave those others there now for you to explain.
I'm just
that
going to
one.
go over these lines again. There we are, just like so. Just going over those lines. Simple little carving like that, but there's surprising the different elements to it. And if Dad's going to shellac it, I'm just going to take... What we're going to do, I'm going to sand any paper off. I'll sand any paper that's left on there. And on those daffodils. I tell you what, I think we leave it there for the carving. And if you want to just shellac what we've done
Yeah, just that bit there.
so far, go for it. Here we are.
It'll just help people to see it a bit more.
There. Oh, shellac the... You want to shellac the daffodils and the globe and show everybody what we've done so far. Not, you know, it just shows you the sort of different carvings that we're doing, that we get asked to do. So it's just a little demonstration. Also, you've seen how when things, you know, you may be using a method and that method doesn't quite work out for us. I'll just move it for the shot.
And of course, this little area here,
We'll
that's the area that we'll certainly keep.
and we'll use that again.
Yeah.
So the globe and the champagne glasses, I think, are a more personal sort of thing, an individual thing. You're either going to like those or not, and you're either going to want them on your spoon or not. But the Tudor style rose and the daffodils like that, I think they could have more general appeal to them. So there we are.
You okay?
Yeah, brilliant. So we just got to finish off. We're going to do the. I tell you what, if Dad comes in and just explains those, what do you think? Do you think I'll finish those off or leave them for another time?
Well,
Yeah.
there's a fair bit of work.
That teak is popping. I agree. It's a beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful piece of teak. Should I take it out of there for you for now?
Right, now to put them on top.
Put them on
Look,
top.
can you see? Can the camera
There we
see them?
Yeah. So you can see this Lovespoon. You just got that little feature. It's just a little knot in the grain. And so our concern was that it's a 50-50. They may have it and think, oh, they're not too keen on that knot. Personally, it doesn't bother me at all. So what we will do now, the one Lovespoon, we will send to the couple who've asked us to make that particular bespoke spoon. The other then, we'll actually put that in what we call Collector's Corner on our website, and we'll sell it anyway. So somebody will be buying it, and the photo will show the knot, so it's bought and seen.
But because it's a bespoke spoon, you know, it's difficult to send this one.
Because you don't know where, maybe they'll like it, but maybe they won't.
You know, if a customer comes into the workshop and sees it, you either like
and
knots,
it's the same on the website,
or you don't.
If it's photographed on the website with a knot, so we put this in Collector's Corner, so if it's photographed with a knot, then it is what it is.
So there we are.
There we go. Hopefully that was interesting. Thank you, as always, for supporting our YouTube channel. It really is very much appreciated. We'll have our usual weekly uploads. Do you guys have the Ben and Lois Orford YouTube channel too? No, I'm not familiar with that one. We only run this one here. No, you'll have to enlighten us on that one, Cowboy Cody. I'm not familiar with that one. Ben and Lois Orford. No, I'm not. We tend to be very much where we're doing, where we do our own thing, and we sort of stick to that. I'm not massively familiar, you know, with other channels and other pages and stuff like that. One thing I always sort of encourage, because I know different ones amongst yourself, I've said to the carver and things, if any of yourselves do YouTube channels, we would support you because you've supported us. So yeah, any of you interested in getting into YouTube and you've got any questions on how you go about it, and you're looking for any support, we'd always be delighted to support you. So, but no, I'm not familiar with that one there. So you can see what I'm going to do from here. See, we're just going to do the entwined hearts and cutting out then the initials and the bells on the top. There we are. Thank you for joining us. We'll have that upload midweek. Any comments, any questions as well, put them in our videos, any of the comment section. It's always a pleasure to be able to help you. And we'll be back next week with another live stream. Thank you all. Oh, I must run. Got to finish a jig I'm making today. Brilliant. Oh, thanks for joining us. Thank you all.